Thank you for joining me today. It's Brian Gubernick, and welcome to the No Days Off podcast, where we believe that every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. Some of the most confident people I know are also some of the most clueless people I know. I know that sounds harsh, but it's true. And some of the smartest people that you'll ever meet constantly doubt themselves. This isn't a coincidence. It's known as the Dunning-Kruger Effect. In today's episode, I'll show you where it shows up in business, as well as leadership, health, and relationships. And more importantly, we're going to talk around how to avoid falling into its trap. So in 1999, psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger ran a set of studies. What they did was ask people to complete tasks in areas like logic, grammar, and humor, and then estimate how well they performed. So they gave them tasks in these areas, grammar, logic, humor, and then said, how do you think you performed? People in the bottom quartile routinely overestimated their performance, believing that they were actually well above average. So those that were the worst performers overestimated their performance, believing that they were above average. And the top performers, ironically, underestimated their performance, believing others did just as well. Now, why does this happen? I think simply put, low-skill individuals don't know enough to recognize their own limitations. And high-skill individuals understand how much they still don't know. I'll say that one more time. What they found and what they believe is that low-skill individuals don't know enough to recognize their own limitations, whereas high-skill individuals understand how much they still don't know. So the less you know, the more certain you feel. And the more you know, the more uncertain you get. The Dunning-Kruger Effect. Now, where does this tend to show up? Well, in business, I think you see it show up as entrepreneurs who confuse energy with execution, or an overconfident junior team member who thinks that they know better than the market or the customer, or leaders who ignore market signals or data. I think a quick action tip here would be to ask yourself, when was the last time I changed my opinion after new information? It's a really good question. When was the last time I changed my opinion after new information? If the answer you give to that question is, I can't remember, you're likely not learning. You're just reinforcing. Now, in leadership, I see this show up with managers who think they're effective communicators but never ask for feedback, or leaders who assume silence from their team means alignment. I think the action step here, maybe once a month, ask your team, what's one thing I could do differently to be a more effective leader for you? In relationships, we see this show up. People who think they're great listeners because they mean well, or partners who think they're supportive because they feel like they are. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect. This is where you think you're doing more because you know less. I think an action step here would be to ask your partner or your friend, is there anything I think I'm doing well in our relationship that might feel different to you? It takes a lot of confidence and a lot of humility to ask that. In health and in fitness, I think it shows up when you see early stage, gym goers or dieters who become overnight experts. They're doing something for a few days or a few weeks or even a few months and it's working. So now they're the experts. Or people who copy influencer routines without understanding the context or, how it impacts individuals, like individually. I think the action step here would be to ask yourself, is this advice based on science or is it based on social media? Because if you've never studied physiology, don't assume you're the expert. How do you think you could outsmart this effect, though? In other words, how do you think, we can stay confident and competent? I think number one, we could build feedback loops. I think regular feedback shrinks blind spots because you can't improve what you don't see. So we've got to be, having this regular feedback, these feedback loops. We have to get input on what we're doing so that we can improve. Because again, you can't improve what you don't see. I think number two, you can track competence and not just confidence. What does that mean? Journal what you're learning. Tell somebody what you're learning. Track real improvements. Let the evidence fuel your confidence, not ego. I think number three, if we want to stay confident and competent, ask better questions. Instead of saying, I'm good at this, maybe ask, how do I know I'm good at this? What would a top performer do differently here? I think number four, stay curious. I think the best antidote to overconfidence is curiosity. Questions like, what am I missing? That should be a regular thought, not a rare one. I think everyone's vulnerable to the Dunning-Kruger effect, including you and definitely me. But those who win long term are those who stay humble and hungry and open. I think confidence is powerful, but only when it's earned. So here's the challenge for you today. I want you to replace I already know, the phrase I already know, or maybe the inner dialogue I already know, with what else can I learn? Today, it's going to come up for you. You're going to think in your head, gosh, I already know that. And I'm going to push you to instead of making that statement, ask yourself, what else can I learn? I think you'll be amazed how much smarter that actually makes you. That's all I have for you today, the No Days Off podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. So let's get after it.